So you have a tender rate and you love overlanding. You have plans to do it big on the trace and some super glamping. One ideas, deep news and reviews, a podcast the first rate and here just for you. You don't have to think about it, join us and be about it. Something interesting we want to hear about it, come on let's talk about it. Welcome to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints podcast.
Sponsored by Midland, communication for every adventure. The industry leader in radio communication technology and innovation for over 50 years. Sponsored by My Medic. Sponsored by Tembo Tusk. Sponsored by Shower Pouch. Sponsored by DeMoss Collective, mission built and made for mobility. Sponsored by Brew Trek. Sponsored by Hard Impact Designs.
Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
Hey, Phil, how's it going?
I am doing good. It's hot. Well, actually, we're having a little respite. It's cool right now, but it was really hot yesterday, and it's supposed to be hot tomorrow. So I'm glad that I don't have to swelter while doing this podcast.
Are you guys getting any effect from the fires in either Oregon or Washington or particularly in Canada, or is that going the other direction?
If I drive into the city of Seattle, when you're crossing the bridge, you can look and see Mount Rainier, and it's like covered with smoke. But where I actually live so far, there hasn't been effect. But you can drive like 15, 20 minutes and you're in smoke.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been pretty bad. Obviously, we're kind of monitoring the story just north of me is going up towards Jasper and Banff. And that's been just a catastrophe going on up there. We've got some smoke down here. I'm in Kalispell, Montana. We've gotten some. It's luckily the last probably 4 or 5 days it's been okay, but tough deal.
Yep. Well, I ain't gonna play around, bro. They announced the VP for for Kamala today.
I saw that.
I am disappointed, not in who she selected. I'm disappointed that we weren't able to get this podcast out and for me to make my prediction because it was so on point. I was like, whoever she picks is going to be so white, so conservative appearing.
Yeah. I'll be completely honest. I think until maybe I heard last week that he was under consideration. I got no idea who this guy is. I've never heard of him before.
I haven't either. I think I've read like a snippet of his name in an article and just whizzed past him because he was nobody.
It's interesting how the news spins everything, right? So within the last couple hours, you already get the spin that, once again, this is her example of her making poor choices because he is the safe choice, right? So, I think a lot of people thought that she was going to pick the guy from Pennsylvania, and he probably more people know him because he's the governor, and there was memes going around last week about him sounding like Obama, which, by the way, I got to tell you, if you listen to that guy talk, he does sound like Obama. It's hilarious. But he would have been the more. I kind of surprised. I'm just surprised because I figure that Pennsylvania being such a battleground state, that's where I probably would have. And he's super popular. That governor is super popular there. So I don't know. I don't know what I think about it yet because I don't know the guy.
I know nothing about him either. Well, just for the audience who's listening, we will be having a special guest at some point during the show. It'll be a surprise, so you just have to stay tuned. So that was it. Right. I don't have any like serious political commentary to discuss.
I know. Well, hey, here's the good news. we have a situation now where you have a presidential candidate on both sides and you have a vice presidential candidate on both sides. So at least we're at the point at which we have 4 people that we know who they are, assuming that doesn't change again. And this cycle, suppose you never know. And we've got 100 days or less than 100 days to the election. So things are going to heat up, I guess, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if they do any debates. Donald Trump, I think I don't know if he's afraid to debate her or he just, doesn't want to do it, or he claims he doesn't want to do it on ABC network or whatever, and he wants to do it on Fox News. I don't see what the difference on what network it's going to be on. Right. It's the same difference. I mean, maybe it's the interviewers. He doesn't like.
It makes a big difference. I mean, there are some liberal stations and there are some conservative stations. There's no more real news anymore. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we already have recent history where last presidential debates, they handed the questions over to the Democratic person. So
it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's reasons and there's strategy, and it's also posturing.
For sure. So we'll see what happens, and how it affects us in the overland world. I mean, we talk about this so often, the economy and what's going on. Obviously, right now we have a potential for not that we didn't before, but we definitely have a stronger potential for a war going on in the Middle East. I mean, that situation is critically bad, and obviously now the stock market has in the last couple of days, took a tanker. It's recovered a little bit today, but that's based on some economic news, particularly the unemployment numbers, which I always like to say they're a sham, anyways, because they're I think there's a lot more unemployment than is being reported in the first place. So
I agree with what you said, but I think the hole is a lot deeper than the stocks went down. A lot of the other things that people are mentioning absolutely are the reasons, but people aren't paying attention. I deal in the financial markets. During a few days before, Warren Buffett basically sold almost all of his Apple stocks.
All that.
Okay. So that's one reason. When a major player dumps stocks, people start dumping stocks. So that's one reason. The second reason is because of who he dumped, which is Apple. I keep up, like I told you, with court decisions. Google just lost their antitrust suit, which calls them a monopoly.
Which is kind of crazy if you think about it.
They paid Apple $19 billion every year.
Yep.
So they will not be getting that $19 million. He didn't just randomly sell those stocks. These things are all connected.
Absolutely.
Most of the top 100 stocks right now are big tech. With this ruling, there's going to be other hammers that fall down on other big techs. So people are running before the everyday citizen realizes that that's what's going on. So a lot of this has to do with Apple and Google.
You got to realize too, Berkshire Hathaway, Apple was like in their top 6 investments. So It was no small thing. I mean, they're that's a major deal,
bro. Warren Buffett, when he sold those stocks, he became the actual true richest man in the world because he's over $270 billion cash rich. Yeah. Most of these guys, they could pull out $1 million here, $1 million here fast, but it would take them months, maybe years to collect all of that money that they say they're worth.
For sure.
He literally could cut a check for $277 billion and write it for cash.
Yeah. There's a lot of volatility in that whole market in the tech sector anyways. I mean, the other thing, not to get back on my California stomping post, but you just got announcements from a bunch of companies saying that they are leaving California. I mean, this has been going on now for a couple years. Big companies. But it was interesting, sometimes you hear it, you get the news doesn't always report it the way it is. So, originally Elon Musk announced that he was leaving California with SpaceX and whatever, and they've already moved to Austin, and now it's X, which used to be Twitter, and moving some of that stuff down there. And you know, your gut feeling when you hear the way the news reports it, well, it's Elon Musk, you know, he's just doesn't like California, blah, 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 blah. But there's more to it than that. Like he was saying, I was listening to him talk and you know, companies like, I forget what it was, PayPal, I think, it's Stripe and things. California has passed some regulation to make it very difficult to do payment processing within that state for companies that reside there, like X. So there's a whole mess of stuff that's going on behind the scenes there that make it difficult for businesses to operate. And there's a few other ones I can't remember off the top of my head. Maybe you remember that were announcing that they were leaving the state. I was like shocked.
Bro, it's not just the big ones. It's the big ones are probably the most effectual to the system, but little small companies are even moving quicker than the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
I know so many people personally, people that are actually in the overland industry who have left.
Yeah.
I know people who are currently there that are considering moving there or Wyoming. The Wyoming is a sleeper place that people are moving to on the quiet, smaller businesses.
Yep. There's a couple overland businesses that moved to Colorado from there as well, into like the Grand Junction area. There's a lot of that occurring, and like you said, when a big company like, you know, Apple obviously hasn't announced they're leaving California, but hey, who knows? But a company like X or SpaceX or somebody like that, they employ and contract with lots of little companies, right? So it forces these little companies to make the adjustments as well. And I don't know how we got on this tangent, but you know, maybe California is listening out there and they'll make it a little bit more fun place to be.
A new listener may not know where we're going with this, but anybody who listens on the regular knows that we're literally talking about overlanding every moment that we're talking about the politics in these different states. It has something to do with the appeal of, let's say, going to California to visit. Mm-hmm. It has something to do with if you wanted to open a business in the overland industry in a particular state. We were talking about the Google monopoly and the tech. Well, there's tech involved with overlanding, Starlink.
By the way,
GPS.
How do you feel about that Google ruling? Because so my gut reaction as just call it a regular internet user, right? I use Google constantly. Right. Particularly as a search engine, you know, mapping, everything links. I mean, it's all integrated. And obviously also being a YouTuber, that's all part of the YouTube bubble, if you will. So there were other ones. Remember Yahoo and Bing, and you know, they just all sucked. I mean, let's be honest, they just weren't that good. So now, if I'm following the story right, Google's going to get punished because they're a monopoly because we're way better than everybody else. Is that what we're talking about?
No, that's actually the protection and that was their defense, is that they're better than everybody else. The argument is that they're a monopoly and that they have done things antitrust wise to other companies. For instance, they have been for years, this isn't even a secret, that they pay Samsung, Apple, and some computer companies to install Google search and to make it the default browser automatically, and you don't make that choice.
Sure.
So it literally, a lot of people never even consider or even have a knowledge of other search engines because they turn on the computer, there it is, and it works. So that's considered an aggression. I
understand that, but
there was a very important ruling that went on with that. A lot of their defense is that our service is free. You know, you go on Google, click, and it's free. And I want to read the wording for exactly what this
which is a true statement. Of course, nothing is free. Obviously, there's advertisement, there's stuff going on with that where they make money. But
so there's a new legal precedent, unless it didn't go all the way to the Supreme Court, so it could change. But at this point, the legal precedent is zero price markets can be monopolized. So Google's whole thing was all of these things that you're attacking us about, we give them away free.
Right.
So how are you saying we're a monopoly? That's not how we make our money. And the ruling is that a zero priced market where you're giving away something free can be monopolized. So it's going to affect other big companies like I can download certain Oracle software for free. I can go to certain camera companies, and even though I don't use that camera, I can use their editing software and so on and so on and so on. So that's going to change a lot of companies putting out a lot of this free software and technology. That's one thing that's going to happen.
But how do you solve the problem, right? Like, so, what does the government do to prevent that from happening again in the future? Or what does it do to Google today to make them not a monopoly? Like, because at the end of the day, I'd still argue that they were the best. They were the best search engine out there. I use them. They're the best browser. Like, I mean, I'm looking at you on Chrome. I mean, it just some of these other ones are just crap.
So, bro, I agree with you, and that's my biggest concern is the dilution of the product.
Right.
But guess what? That was part of the actual legal claim. The court actually says that Google is the best search engine. That's part of their legal ruling, that they're saying you're the best, but you being the best has nothing to do with it, because another part of their defense was that we're really the best. We're not, people choose us. So
but if you put up competitors,
Mike, we'll come back to that. Hey guys, we have a special guest, Rick Stowe. Rick is an old school bushcrafter, trout fisherman, watch and knife collector. And in the Overland community, Rick has for years now been the editorial and communications backbone behind some of the largest overland events in the world. You may know him on social media from Blue Ridge Overland Gear and owner Matt's Bonfire podcast. Rick, welcome to the show.
Not much. How are you guys doing today?
We are doing great, and we're glad.
How's the weather out by you?
It is a sunny, beautiful day, but we are about to get like 3 days of rain, 5 inches. Hurricane Debbie is heading this way, like this evening. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, because I figured that would inevitably end up in your front doorstep.
Yeah. But we can use it. It's been a hot, dry summer, so a little rain won't be a bad thing. But you guys doing all right? Everything good?
We're doing great. And we're gonna do you right on here. I know that you have things to do. You've got something scheduled right after this, so we're not gonna hold you long. We're gonna get right to the point.
Oh no,
Rick,
you're
good. First, tell people who you are.
So Rick Stowe, thanks for the introduction. Like I said, I was trying to get the video of Mike to turn on. Work here at Blue Ridge Overland Gear for about 2.5 years. Have known Matt, the owner, founder, pretty much since about a year since the company started. Oh, hey, there we go. New transit bag. That's pretty hot off the presses in terms of our new products. And met Matt pretty early on in like the very first Overland Expo East, and got to know him. We did some trips together over the years. And then, like I said, I guess it was 2 years ago in March, moved here from Tennessee and handle marketing, social media, some communication stuff here in the shop. We're a small team. About 20 folks in the whole company. Everything's made right here, probably within 30 yards of where I'm sitting in the marketing office. And we love it. We love making stuff that people take on adventures like you guys near and far. Matter of fact, right before this, I just clicked the publish button for our new chest pack that's going live today. We were pretty excited about it and from the launch list. So are our customers. So curious to see how that goes.
So Rick, we have you on the show specifically because we want to tell everybody about an event that you have something to do with. Now, before you tell that event, I want to repeat something that people have heard all the time, and there may be some questions. You know personally, I go to pretty much all these events.
Yeah.
And I have rated. I think Overland Expo is in a whole category of its own.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So everything else, when I rate them, there's only 2 that I have on my list that I rate and that I tell people to go to. One is the home team right here in my state, Northwest Overland Rally. And on the East Coast, it's the Blue Ridge Overland Rooftop Tent Rally.
Yeah.
And
thank you. Appreciate that.
That's what you're here to talk about, is the Rooftop Tent Rally. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so the Rooftop Tent Rally is produced by us in partnership with Virginia State Parks. And matter of fact, it's held at James River State Park. It's maybe 30 miles from the location of Overland Expo East, to kind of give your listeners an idea.
I think it's actually about 4 miles by air and about 30 miles to get there. Yes.
Yeah. You're right. That's for sure. Especially when you get up in that neck of the woods, there are no fast routes, Mike.
That's right.
But yeah, it's a small event. So it's actually limited to 200 vehicles. We have a handful of vendors, but all throughout the weekend, we have giveaways, games. The park does a great job with like kids and family activities. Matter of fact, they usually have like a harvest festival going on at the same time. The apple slingshot is a lot of fun for actual kids and adult kids
like us.
You can camp Thursday, Friday, and everybody rolls out on Sunday. The vast majority of all the proceeds go to Friends of the James River State Park and for programming and upkeep throughout the year for their charity there with the park system. Like I said, 8th year, and it got bigger and bigger, but we really didn't want it to get like too big, and also working with the park, in terms of impact. So it's limited for 200 rigs. I don't have the number in front of me, but I will say that it is probably getting close to half the tickets sold already, and they've been live for almost a week. Yeah. So if anybody's interested, definitely don't delay, because we usually do sell out. We've got a dedicated crowd that never misses this. So as soon as they go live, people are hitting the buy now for their tickets. So
he is not joking, people. People literally have their special spot that they always park at when they come there and where they camp. Me and Mike have both been. Speak up, Mike. Talk about the event.
Well, it's funny you say it's the 8th year. It's interesting. I think I've been to 4 of the Rooftop Tent Rallies. And for those of you out there that are not familiar with it, first of all, let's put one thing to bed. You don't have to have a rooftop tent, right? Let's talk about that.
Right.
Yeah. Plenty of gazelles, plenty of backpacking tents. I think that was a branding decision back when it started. We get that question. It's like, no. Listen, that's just to make it sound cool. Ever how you're camping, we don't allow any RVs because it is in like a big grassy kind of plateau overlooking the river. But plenty of people bring in trailers. Got some friends that, bring their tax of cricket every single year. So things like that. And there's also like a camping area up on the hill that's designated like quiet hour camping, family camping. But it's also fine for, if you do have a trailer that maybe you're worried about getting it down, like actually in the center of the event and getting back out on Sunday. So.
And those not familiar with that area, there are tons of things to do. There's hiking, there's horseback riding. It's not like Rick had mentioned, it's not that far from Overland Expo. So if you're attending that show, you make it into a big exploration for a couple of weeks out there. There's a campground, a legit, plug-in or call it plug-in, but an RV park that's attached to the event there too, because I've actually stayed in that for a couple of days before as well. So there's a lot around that area. There's the train along the river there, and some lookouts. There's a lot of cool stuff.
In kayak rentals, like literally right there at the park, you can float right by the venue. The Blue Ridge Parkway is not that far, and then obviously tons of national forest land. Thomas Jefferson George Washington National Forest kind of a border right in that area. And you can get on OnX or Gaia and find just almost unlimited options for exploration. And that's a great idea, Mike. Actually, when my wife and I, when we still lived in Tennessee, we came up and did just that. So we came up, went to Overland Expo, and then headed up in the mountains, did some exploring, checked out some of the cool little towns in the area, and then finished the trip at Rooftop Tent Rally before heading home. So,
which is a lot smarter than that one year that I went there and drove home back to Connecticut with my big truck, and then drove back. It was only a week later, and then I drove back with the Jeep. I remember that. I was like, "What am I doing?"
Pretty much just stayed on the road and then came right back to, like you said, about 4 miles from where you started.
That's right.
The great thing is, like you mentioned, if you're traveling to the East Coast to go to Overland Expo, you should just hang out and go to the rooftop tent rally. That's what I've done every time I've gone. And you may be thinking, well, what am I going to do in between? That's not a worry. You're actually going to run out of time. You're going to be like, oh,
yeah,
I got to get to the rooftop tent rally. And let's talk about the socialness of it, because right now, so far, we have not really discussed what differentiates this rooftop tent rally from all these other events. It's the social for me. One, it's already reached a point where half the guys there, I know them all. I'm going to see you the next year and the next year. The other thing is it's actually what people envision that they're going to see when they go to one of these things. It's not vendor centric. You're not selling anything. You're not pushing anything. It's people hanging out, having a ball, good drinks, good food, good weather. It's a great time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a really great point. And it also, we haven't talked about dates. So this year it's the 18th through the 20th of October. But no, Phil, fantastic point. I mean, like you said, people have got their spots picked out, and it's usually a group of people. So, they kind of circle the wagons, and those groups kind of get bigger and bigger. And I think the example I always give, and we talk about this here at Blue Ridge, is that, for one, once you get to know people, you don't almost have to worry about cooking, because there's always somebody that's like, oh, we got an extra burger. Oh, hey, we got loaded nachos on the Blackstone. You guys need to grab some, stuff like that. We do have a local brewery that comes by, and live music and a huge bonfire. I mean, like, if it wasn't for the fact the parks
is killer.
If it wasn't for the fact the Park Service folks light it, I wouldn't believe they allowed us to have a fire that big at a park. But it is. It's just a really good time. And honestly, whether it's your first year or you've never missed one, it kind of feels like you're just camping with a bunch of friends, because that's what it becomes very quickly. Very inviting, very open crowd. And it is really fun to see, people break out the yard games, stuff like that, as soon as they set up camp, and people are kind of, coming over to say hey and check in with folks. And while we have plenty of regional people, like, we've got some friends that come up from Florida every single year for this event. They say, this is their kind of one chance at fall, because it is, perfect fall time in the Blue Ridge. And kind of to that point, if you're worried about things to do, I mean, there's going to be fall festivals, corn mazes, pumpkin patches, distillery tours, stuff like that, like literally in every direction you go from James River that time of year. It's definitely happening.
And these guys are going to be in rigs. You're not limited to a few miles away from it. I mean, one of the most beautiful coasts in America is right off on Virginia.
Yeah.
Some of the nicest wineries, some of the best hams you can ever, if you like ham, get a ham in Virginia.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. Especially in those couple of counties there. Yeah. History. There's tons and tons of history all around that area. Historic sites, and obviously DC itself, but tons of historic sites and things like that. If you need recommendations for things to do, drop us a line on social media. And at the very least, give us a category. Hey, I want to hit up some wineries or distilleries, or hey, I want to see some cool trails in the national forest, or, what's some cool historic towns, because you almost have got to narrow it down, because there is so much to do.
Yes.
Now, for people out there, Rick, that want to get tickets, where do they get them?
So we actually handle that for the Park Service. They don't really have a direct-to-consumer situation that can handle this kind of load. So just BlueRidgeOverlandGear.com. It's going to be on our homepage. For the Rooftop Tent Rally tickets, you got two options. So the regular tickets allow you to camp Friday, Saturday, leave Sunday. It was much requested, so we had an early bird option a couple of years ago. So you can actually come in on Thursday. I think part of that, going back to what we said, people wanting to make sure they didn't miss their site. So, just BlueRidgeOverlandGear.com. There's links on all of our social media. If you're not subscribed to our newsletter, do that, because actually that's where we were advertising things like the launch list, so that people could get the notification as soon as those tickets were available. And we'll have, a couple of workshops. There's plenty of fishing to do, hiking trails there in the park. We've got a pretty thorough kind of event page built out on the site if you want to learn more, and kind of a digestible situation where it tells you a little bit about the event and what you can expect. So,
well, Rick, I know you got somewhere to go, so I'm not going to do that to you. Would love to talk to you more, but I'm sure we'll have you on the podcast very soon.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that.
I want to thank you for your time and coming on and talking about the event. Because like I said, I think it's one of the top 2 events in the whole United States.
Yeah, I do know that. I'm very disappointed that I will not be out east this fall. I'll be down in Mexico, so I'll be thinking about you guys, though.
You can catch us next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on for starters, and always a great time chatting with you guys. And if you need anything, let me know. And if anybody has questions about the Rooftop Tent Rally or just Blue Ridge Overland gear in general, they can hit us up on Instagram. That's always me, or shoot us an email, call the shop, whatever works for them. And looking forward to chatting with you in the future.
Sounds good. Thanks, Rick.
Awesome.
See you guys.
See you later. Yeah, that was great. I love talking about that. Some of my best experiences on the East Coast were at the Rooftop Tent Rally. He was saying,
you and I have done it together.
Right. We both went to the inaugural one.
Yep.
I keep, every time I go to a grocery store, like we always do. We go to a grocery store before these events and we fill up I never cook any of my food.
No, I remember who was doing the one year I was there. We did because I think I was there with no equipment at all. And
you had your Jeep, right?
Yeah, I had the Jeep one year, and and then they were cooking on the Scotto. They were doing some demos. There was all sorts of stuff going on. So that's my kind of event, because it's really just it's like a family gathering.
That's a good way to put it. All right, guys. So we're going to get back to what we were talking about. What were we talking about, Mike? We were talking about Google.
Yeah, Google
being a monopoly. We pretty much had covered the main points. It's going to change things, but I think from it's only going to change things for like a decade or two. I happen to, in my work career, was part of one of these. I was in telecommunications, and we had the big Telecommunications Act, which made the phone company antitrust, that they were a monopoly, and they broke it up. So I've had a actual hands-on to see how this works. More than likely, this is just my guess, my opinion from past experience, but more than likely, they're going to break up portions of this. So you might see something like their mapping is going to be something, its own entity, a business to itself, or something like that. YouTube will be separated from, they'll divide it up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of back end that Google does that people don't know. They are the support and the support for a lot of other infrastructure for big businesses.
They run a lot of the servers for other businesses, just in general. So it's a big deal to talk about. And I think people don't, you're going about your daily life all the time. You don't think about how these things potentially could affect you, both positively and negatively.
Right. And I'm being very selfish at this point. I'm only looking at it as, I hope they don't mess up my Google. I hope they don't mess up my Google, because, bro, we're both old enough to remember when there was no Google.
Oh,
it's a wonderful thing.
It's hard to imagine. I can't even imagine.
It's so integrated into my life. I don't know what I would do. And they are actually the best search engine. So I hope this doesn't make them not as good as they were. And I do see that coming at some point.
And I agree with you. Like when they broke the phone company up, the Ma Bell thing, we went through all those years. But in reality, they all got back together again, really.
That's where I was headed.
One company again, right? I mean,
and that's why I said this might work for about 10 years.
Yeah.
But they'll end up integrating back in. Yep. I agree with that 110%.
Yeah, it's nuts.
And what you got to remember is when they do these moves, it's never sincerely because they're like, oh my God, there's a monopoly. We must stop it. It's because they ain't getting a cut.
Right. That's right. That's right. And, we talk about this a lot, in politics. We'll see what happens with all of these potential lawsuits or court actions when and if you have an administration change at the new election, who knows? Who knows?
I don't know the politics on this, who feels what way or whatever. So I don't know what would happen, but I'm sure they have opposing views and opposing lobbyists on this particular thing.
I'm quite sure of it. Yeah. So anyways,
so that could change travel for an overlander a lot. I use the maps when I get to a city. I search everything. Restaurants.
I mean, here I am. I'm sitting in Kalispell, right? So decide what I'm going to do tonight. The first thing I do is go on Google, and whether it's search for breweries or search for live music, or yesterday me and a couple of buddies went downtown. We were looking for hats. You search, where do I get hats, or where's the nearest grocery store, taking it from somebody that's a nomad that travels full time. I mean, I'm Googling the crap out of everything all of the time. And then on top of that Googling, it integrates so efficiently because then you Google it and then boom, it's like hit that, route to it.
Yeah, because that I've heard that, I'll probably Google cowboy hats, Kalispell.
That's right.
Your video or, a post on Twitter from you will pop up.
Yep.
From YouTube.
Yep. And that's right. That's how that works. So as we've talked about on other podcasts, what other software do I use? Well, sure. I use Onyx. I use Gaia. I use, iOverlander, which really is just emulating off of Google Maps anyways. And, so that those kind of things, there's different things.
Say that again, because you glossed over the main point.
Which was the main point?
It basically runs off of Google.
Oh, yeah, most of them do. So they're all running on a basis map, right? That's
why it's so easy to just click and say, find directions, and it'll say, do you want to use our maps or do you want to use Google's?
Right. Yeah. And for somebody like me who is potentially looking for the adventurous route, it gives you cool options like, avoid highways or avoid ferries or take dirt roads, or are you bicycling this? Or are you hiking this? Or, I mean? So these things, certainly from an overland perspective are it's a big deal. So, that's why, not that we have to make up an excuse why we talk about certain things on here.
No.
That's why.
And I was even going to say, we're focusing on Google because they were the one in court. Mm-hmm. But this could possibly affect, like, the greatest, latest thing out of everybody's mouth is how much they love their STARLINK. This could affect STARLINK in some way.
Oh, for sure.
They could be considered.
Well, it is a monopoly. STARLINK right now is the only realistic solution to put high-speed internet on your vehicle. Like, there's other things that they've put on RVs in the past, and they're all sacks of crap. Like, they're just garbage.
And there's no way for anyone else to create an infrastructure of hundreds of satellites.
Because you're talking billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars. And remember, we've talked about this with Starlink. The U.S. federal government is in many ways paying for these launches to go up into space. So this is a collective thing with federal money, one of the largest countries on planet Earth, the United States, and SpaceX to do Starlinks. Like, that's not, like, look, even somebody as wealthy and as powerful as Jeff Bezos at Amazon, as an example, has screwed the pooch on this. Like, he's trying to compete, or he wanted to put up a competing service. Where is it? We're years into this thing now, and I haven't heard diddly do out of it. I don't know what he's doing.
He just finally got the thing about the drones passed.
That's right.
To be able to delete.
Right.
That ain't even been about a month.
We got Boeing as an example. A big company that's been around for many years has a spaceship docked up at the International Space Station that they claim, they're just doing some testing, but in all practical, to me, it looks like it's freaking stuck there, and it's going to have to be rescued. I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens, I guess. But, like, there's no competition. Like there's no competition. So if Boeing just says, well, we're going to use our rockets and we're going to put up our own satellites and we're going to start our own Starlink. Well, I mean, hell, they can't even get their rocket up to work right.
So this is a apples to apples analogy here because it's telecommunications. They're a monopoly, and a monopoly like this, you can't go like with the phone company. You couldn't create all of those copper wires again. So they required the phone company to allow anybody to ride their signal on their there was a time where anybody could have a phone company, but you weren't really a phone company. You were just
a reseller. Just selling the service over somebody else's copper line.
Right. I considered it just to have that title as a phone company. It was that easy at one point in the early 90s.
And you're right. That could happen with Starlink where, suddenly they say, well, you got to let other people use your satellites.
I can easily see that.
Yep.
But trust me, they'll make sure that they allow them to get a nice big pad of money before it won't be immediate. They'll let them get that head start. Well, they already got the head start.
Well, and speaking of head start, I mean, Starlink has now come out with their mini dish, right? So they got this little way. Like, it's small enough that I could put it on my motorcycle. So now for somebody let's say, yes. Yeah, the new one is super small. I want to say the dish is, I'd have to look it up. Don't quote me on this. I want to say it's about a foot wide.
Okay.
So, and it's got the modem and everything is integrated into the dish. So there's no multiple things, and it runs on 12 volt. So you could plug it into a power pack or something, and it just runs on 12 volt. So all integrated in one. So that device, you now can carry shit. I could put it on a bicycle, quite frankly. I mean, it's probably a little bit more weight than I would want to carry. I want to say it's like 8 or 9 pounds, but certainly on a motorcycle, if you're like, so in the past, if you were doing the, Pan American Highway, say on a motorbike, hell, now you can carry Starlink. I think it's going to be in your phone.
I was just headed there. I believe that we're going to standard, it's going to be satellite phones. We're going to have satellite phones in the future. Yeah. I believe things like, like my iPads, I have phone service on my iPad. I believe there's going to be an option where you don't put a SIM in, you put in another little module and you're on the satellite. I believe that's going to happen with the laptops first.
Yep, I would agree. I mean, people don't realize, we're already the telecommunications thing. Cell phones are partly on satellite anyways, because you may be communicating with the tower. Towers are relaying things through satellite anyways. So, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So,
minus satellites. Minus satellites, we can't talk. I used to work for a company called MCI.
Yeah,
MCI was basically in charge of all of the satellite communications.
Yep.
They were kind of like doing what Elon Musk is doing. They were connected with the government. Matter of fact, we created the private communications for the government when I was working there. My point is what you were saying.
Yeah. So, what other things are going on in the news out there in our overlanding world?
Well, did you see the footage of what happened in Yellowstone?
I sure did. In fact, I'm going to be there probably towards the end of next week. I will be in Yellowstone, and my understanding is that particular section is closed for, they said, at least a year.
Is it a year? Are we talking about the same thing?
The thing that the geyser, the thermo geo whatever blew up. That thing,
right? The hydrothermal eruption. Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I could see that a year.
Well, that's mostly to see because obviously it came as clearly because it blew up the deck and people were on it. Came as a surprise. So
hold on, let's back up because people don't know what we're talking about. There was a hydrothermal eruption at one of the geysers in Yellowstone. That's what we're talking about. And now they've shut off an area of Yellowstone because of it. Continue, bro.
It's one of the reasons for those of you that may have never gone to Yellowstone that the park exists in the first place, because it is a super intense, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's a thermal.
Volatile.
Yeah, it's a volatile area with geysers and hot springs, and that particular section of Yellowstone is probably the most active in the United States by far, certainly the largest. And that's one of the reasons the park was created. And, these things, people have heard of Old Faithful as an example, the geyser that shoots off on, every 102 minutes or whatever it is. But there's many, many geysers in that park, including ones that are, quote, inactive. This one being one of those sort of where it blew up. It wasn't an active geyser that did it on any kind of frequency, but it just suddenly happened. Right. And it was so violent that it blew up the wooden boardwalk and stuff, and there were people on it. So luckily nobody was severely injured or anything, but there was some damage done or whatever. And the reason they closed the park now not the park, but that section for a year is, I guess the scientists are going to do some research to figure out, could this happen in another 20 minutes, or is this never going to happen again in our lifetime? Who knows? So I think that's what they're doing.
So you better do your research, bro, because I normally like to come in from the north side from Red Lodge through Beartooth Highway. Mm-hmm. And there used to be 3 entry points. Now there's only 1. And it was because they shut stuff down. Not at the top when you get into the park.
Yeah. Because I think we're going to come in through West Yellowstone probably. But you're like those merge into the one that I forget whatever route that is that goes down. So yeah, there was some changes to that for sure. Yeah.
And so there's quite a few bits of that park where it's either closed or it's one of those things where it's one lane. They have the little stop sign and they stop you in only one lane at a time. So make sure you plan your route.
Yeah, because you got to be careful. People don't realize so I went a couple of days ago, I went to Glacier National Park. And you and I have talked extensively about national parks on this podcast. But, I went on I want to say it was a Monday. Maybe it was Tuesday. It was a weekday. I think it was Monday. And you have to get a reservation, right? So you have to get and those you had to get back in January. And if you didn't, then you can go on the night before. This is kind of how they're operating. And you have to go on after 7:00 at night. And they have, X amount of availabilities. During the week, it's not too difficult to get them, to be honest. And they're cheap, but we've also talked about this before because this is sort of the financial part. I mean, they're cheap. They're $2 in Glacier to get in there. And but what I want to say is, I don't know how to say this politically correct, but I almost wish. I don't
politically correct.
Okay, well, I almost wish they charged $200 to get into the damn park. To be honest with you, because even with reservations, which presumably have been created to control the flow of traffic, dude. I mean, it is it's a mob scene. I mean, it just, so you'd go, oh shit, $2 I paid. I was like, well, if I paid $200, could we have brought in 10 times or 100 times less people? Which goes, of course, totally against what you and I have talked about, where it's it's public land, it's a national park. The whole thing with charging is problematic in the first place. But, Yellowstone, if Glacier was that bad, I would imagine Yellowstone is worse.
Oh, no, bro. Whenever I travel through that region, I use going through the Tetons through Yellowstone as my regular road. I use that like as a road. I don't even stop.
And that's what I'm planning on doing. That's exactly what I'm planning on doing, because I'm going to go to the Tetons.
But when I do it, I have in my mind 12 hours minimum. Because if you could just drive straight through, you could do it probably in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But you better have to, because you can literally be stopped so many times that you'll spend the whole day.
Yep. People doing sightseeing or doing stupid things, or, there's bison in the road, or.
And I understand, but you just have to, that's what I'm saying. You just have to have that in your mind.
That's right. Yep. It's quicker to go, from where I am, it's quicker to go west, go down through Idaho, and then cross the pass into the Tetons than it is to go through, which is a lot more miles, but that's quicker than going through. That's a beautiful
drive, though.
It is. Oh no, it's I've done both. That's also a beautiful drive for sure.
I can't think of the road. It's on the west side. It goes right along the Gallatin River.
Gallatin River, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I love. That's a good place to go fishing too. Do you fish, Mike?
No, I do at Whole Foods.
Because you're gonna be around.
Thing.
You're gonna be around some good fishing. And,
I love fish. Don't get me wrong.
Campsites all up and down the Gallatin River.
Yeah, yep.
That are good for like a vehicle with like yours.
My lead into this, I know it's a roundabout, is I'm actually doing this drive from Montana down that way to go to Overland Expo in Colorado. So I'm going to be taking the route roughly through Yellowstone, through the Tetons, through Flaming Gorge, and then in through cutting through Utah, and then in through Colorado up. But no, I'm going to try to avoid any kind of highways or big roads. So I'm not taking the I-70 going into Denver area or anything like that. So it's going to be an interesting trip.
You won't have no problems, bro. You won't have no problems. You have choices.
Oh, for sure. And I've having been to pretty much all of those places. That's an incredibly scenic route from up here. I mean, it's just that's an amazing trip the whole way. So we talk about, overlanding to events. Well, I'm literally going to leave, when is that? I hate to say it, but, today is August. We're recording this today on August 6th. So you guys probably listening to it at the end of the week. But we're talking about what? How many days to Overland Expo? 20?
Less than 3 weeks.
Yeah. So I'm going to be here in Montana for another week, and then basically making my way and trying to take a full week and a half to 2 weeks to get to Overland Expo.
Yeah. Whenever I go to Pacific Northwest or I go to West, I have usually done a portion of the Idaho BDR. Nothing rough. It's something you could do in a car. Nothing rough. Yep. But I do a part of it, and I actually am able to cover a large distance and be in the woods the whole time.
Yep.
You can also go through that little slither of the the west side of Colorado. You can travel up and down that, or you can follow the northern border, and there's a trail from the west side that leads almost right into Loveland.
Yep.
Well, actually above Loveland, and then you come right down.
You come down the side, yeah.
It's so many ways to get there that are just beautiful. You don't have to deal with the highways. You can get on dirt if you want. Plenty of camping, and like we always talk about, visual eye candy.
Yeah, there's a lot of it. Yeah, I mean, my favorite mountain range in the whole country is the Tetons. So going through there. Yellowstone, I've talked about this. Yellowstone Glacier, really my two favorite national parks, and then coming through over the mountain, over the Rockies in Colorado is stunning. You pick your right route, and it's amazing.
So what we're going to have to talk about, and we're going to need a whole podcast, I believe, on this particular one. I forgot what I was going to say, bro. What were you just saying?
I was talking about the route and traveling to Overland Expo, and what else was I talking about? My favorite national parks and my favorite areas, and I don't know, what was I talking about?
I had
Colorado.
a great idea.
About Colorado, backcountry. I don't know. This is what happens, guys. So, we're like, this is not the young people podcast here. This is a two old guys sitting there. We can't remember what we need notes.
Did you get the video I sent you about the mom and her campsite on TikTok?
Yes. Oh, the one with the, I was like, is this a joke? I'm sitting there watching it. It had it wasn't me, or did it look like to you that tent and setup would take like 4 days to set up?
Yes. Yes. But the reason I sent it to you is because her video went, and let's explain to the viewers because everybody's not watching. A lady sent a TikTok of her extravagant camping site, and it had like a widescreen TV, couches, and everything. It had like a foyer, 5 or 6 rooms. and she
all
got
sorts of cooking equipment and power and all sorts of stuff.
It was a house.
Yeah.
And she didn't get the reaction she thought she would get. It was a lot of people basically attacking her, saying, you should just stay home, and what's the point? What do you think about it, Mike?
Well, I mean, what I think about it is, like I say to everybody, get out and do it. So regardless of whether you're in a Subaru or a big truck like mine, or you got to set up a 4-day, set up elaborate tent, she's doing it. So good for her.
I enjoy a little suffering when I camp. So I get that.
There's no suffering in her camp.
I totally get that. But I don't care if you suffer or not. It seems like people are too interested in how you do something as opposed to how they do something. And usually the people who are concerned aren't doing anything at all.
That's right. Yeah, and unfortunately, we could have an entire podcast, which I'd like to do sometime, because I could give you. Let's do a podcast sometime and I'll gather like the top 100 negative comments that I've gotten sent to me on social media, and we'll talk about them. That'd be kind of fun, because and I would, if I had to take a guess, I would say out of 100 bad comments, 90 of these people don't actually do shit. They just want to be online trolls or gremlins or whatever you want to call them, or they're jealous, or because you just get everything from, well, you got to be a multimillionaire to be an overlander, or well, that's not camping because you don't have this, or unless you set up a tent in the middle of the night in the rain, it's not camping, or whatever. Everybody's got these opinions on stuff, and the reality is like, no,
bro. I have an EDC toolkit that I carry with me all the time. And I had one of these bushcraft guys tell me that's not a real EDC kit because you don't have this and you don't have that. And I'm like, but I have exactly everything that I need in the bag.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It kills me, these rules to be part of a group.
Yeah, and that's an interesting. Yeah, we could probably spend a whole hour talking about that, the cliques and the groups and the group dynamics involved with all of this thing we love and like to call overlanding, whatever that means. Yeah, we it's been a while. We haven't done. We need to do some more negativity.
So, Mike,
it seems so positive here today.
I have to cover something. I want to make sure to get this in before we get out of here.
Okay.
On our last podcast, you were telling a story and you stated, and I quote, we probably could have a whole podcast talking about nomad life and being on the road and experiences you have and just the way life happens. Pause.
Yes.
There was a pause, and then you said, if you let it.
That's right. Yeah, that's an entire podcast right there. Maybe even a series of podcasts that we can talk about at length.
So we will do that then. But briefly, I would like you to tell the people what you meant if you let it. And let me just say your quote again. We probably could have a whole podcast talking about nomad life and being on the road and experiences you have and just the way life happens if you let it.
Yeah. So in a really tight nutshell, in a couple sentences, what I would say is my background was a CEO, running companies, being very rigid, quite frankly, in an office environment oftentimes. And when I hit the road originally, I think you take your background with you, right? You take your personality and your background and what you're used to. So I remember my first couple of weeks on the road, and I'd be like, well, I'm going to go to this place, and then I'm going to go to that place, and then I'm going to do this. And you know what I found? What I was doing was saying no a lot. So you'd meet somebody at a gas station, and they would say, hey, your truck is super cool. I got this property, a town over, welcome to camp in my thing. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah. You'd be like, oh, thank you very much. No, I've already booked Harvest Host, or I did, it was always a lot of no. And now what I learned is to just let it be, let it happen, is say yes. That's the easiest way I could describe this. Say yes. So if I walk out of my truck right now and I walk across the whatever and I run into a guy walking down the road and he says, "Oh, dude, you're in Kalispell right now. Have you ever been to the so-and-so bar? That's a really cool hangout." Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go there tonight. So, regardless of what my plans may or may not have been, I don't want to say this. I don't want to say don't have plans at all, but have as few as possible and just say yes. That's kind of what I mean by that. Because I'll tell you what, in nomad life, if you just let it happen, we were laughing about this. I'm traveling with a couple of people. We were laughing about this the other day. It's like, I made my way basically, from Overland Expo in Pacific Northwest and getting injured and crushed my arm. And, all of these things were unforeseen things, but I never would I have guessed a bunch of things that I would have done along the way. None of this, everything I've done in the last month and a half has not been planned at all. So, but it's been amazing.
And just to piggyback off of that, everybody, if you really think about it, you've had situations where somebody is like, "Oh, there's this festival in town, or there's this event in town." Mm-hmm. And you just kind of brush it off. They may even said, "If you'd like to go, we could put you on the list, or I'll get you in, or whatever." And I guarantee you, if you really think about it and itemize it in your mind, you have literally dozens and dozens of situations that occur like that. And you kind of brush them off instead of saying, "Hey, let me go check that out." Because the reverse side of that is people will see some of the stuff I do on social media and they're like, "How did that happen? How did you end up there? How'd you go to that?" And it'd be like, "Well, I was eating and somebody said that, or that they and their family were all going to the Lobster Fest in Maine. And I just said, hey, I'm going."
Yeah. And that's the thing is you have to have flexibility, and you have to realize that it takes you to get into a certain mindset and realize that travel is about seeing things and travel is about experiences. It is not necessarily, and I get it because you and I probably both enjoy this, the planning of it, the building the vehicles out, the outfitting of your equipment, all those things are fun for sure. But when it comes down to it, the actual travel is about seeing things and getting new experiences. And those are not acquired through you, not through yourself, right? You could plan to death. But how are you planning? I mean, we started out the show talking about Google. Well, half the time we're Googling stuff. You go into town, like, let's Google this. Well, okay, well, you're going to be subject to the masses then, right? Google's going to tell you these are the 3 breweries you should hit, or, because there's a rating system, right? There's Yelp, there's all this other stuff. None of that will ever substitute for local knowledge. And in particular, I'll give you an example. I'm here in Kalispell, which is the quote city. It's not really a city, but quote a city. And if I start Googling stuff, it's largely going to show me things that are geographically right next to me. But what about the thing that might be 18 miles down the road in a different town, or in a not even a town, an unincorporated area, which is tons of them around here. And then I discovered the other day, just riding my motorbike, going through Polebridge, up near my property. And there's I say new, it's not that new. But there's another place, we all know the Polebridge Mercantile as an example, and they've got, music outdoors, some there sometimes, but there's another place in Polebridge now that has music and food and stuff. And I was like, oh, look at that. And then I find out they have live music like 5 nights a week. So it's like, we're going to go listen to some live music up, but that's not coming up on Google. And somebody happened to mention it to me, and I was like, "What?" And I did exactly what you said. I was like, "Oh yeah," it kind of dissed it off a little bit. And then I went riding by on my motorbike and I saw it, and then I was like, "Because it's limiting beliefs, right?" Because my brain says, "Well, geez, the music's going to come on at 6, and I'm in Polebridge." Now, for you guys that are not necessarily familiar with this area, that's like saying that at 6 o'clock you're going to be, somewhere in the middle of Death Valley. Like, in other words, you're nowhere near diddly do. So then you're going to watch some music play, and you're going to, in your mind, you're going, well, I don't understand why anybody else would be there, and where are they coming from, and how do they have food, and where's the music? All sorts of questions that you got in your mind. And then you go, well, geez, I'm going to listen to music for a couple hours, and then what? I got to drive home? Where the hell am I going? Because I'm literally out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
So you got to put all that stuff out of your mind and just go and do it and be like, well, I don't know. People do it. Let's go see what happens.
And I do understand what we're discussing is not easy for people, because I've been on the other side of that bus. And it used to be, like you said, you come from the workforce, you come from urban society, and you have these rigid rules and thoughts and everything. So you're meeting a different kind of person when you're traveling that you're not used to. So I'm used to, when people are offering me things and suggesting things, to immediately question, to immediately say no. I have, like you were talking about, you've been a boss all your life. Well, one of the things, if you're successful, for you to be successful, is you learn a bunch of ways to say no.
Right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. And that's kind of what I was trying to say. You become a master at how to say no, because you spend most of your day saying no. So now you got to turn that into, how do I spend most of my day saying yes?
Right. So where I was headed with it was, it's almost antithetical to you that you're meeting these people and they're really genuine. They really are looking out for your best interests. And as you start loosening up, you start realizing, oh, this is a unique community here. Of course, there's some assholes, but in general, it's a beautiful community.
And what you're saying is, different than, say, working in an office environment or working in corporate or whatever. You get a certain select group of people, right? Traveling, you are open to, and you run into every kind of person from every kind of walk of life. So your funnel is way bigger, and that's what's amazing. So what you're saying is, like, yeah, we're used to saying no because they have ulterior motives, right? Because they're in a very narrow group of people, and they're probably trying to sell you something or whatever's going on. Whereas when you're traveling, you're just roll into town. There's everybody from the town drunk that's homeless laying under the tree in the green, all the way up to the guy that owns most of the property, right? There's every kind of group of person. So there's no motivation there. And you can learn a lot, by the way, from both kinds of those people.
Right. I can give you an example. The owner of Blue Ridge Overland. The very first time I ever met him, he didn't know who I was. Well, actually, he did. I didn't know who he was. And he just said, hey, I've been following you. Would you like to stay on my property, which is now where they actually have the company? He was like, you could just stay on my property. This is years ago. And my first thing was like, no. It's like, he wants me to come stay on his property in the middle of the woods and nowhere. Who the hell is this guy? Obviously, we're friends now. We have a relationship. I love his products. He's a great guy. But the point is, that's how it goes. It'll be, they're like, oh, you're part of this group. Welcome.
Yeah.
And that used to freak me out. So why is he so welcoming to me? He's like, well, you're part of the group. I see you around. You're good.
Yep. And that is a mindset when we talk about just go and do it. When I say that, I really mean that, because you really do have to just go and do it. I follow a bunch of people, obviously, on social media. In fact, somebody I follow had posted a story saying that, it's very stressful, on the road, trying to find another place to stay. And, where am I going to stay tomorrow night? Sometimes, she has, starts crying and breaks down and then gets over it, whatever. But, I don't have that same experience. I'm going to be honest with you, because I've turned my mind into, like, half the time I don't know what I'm doing or where I'm going to stay. And you just got to roll with it. Like, I think that, if you're an over planner or an overthinker or particularly concerned with a bunch of stuff, it's tough. And my best advice is just you kind of have to let all that go. I know it's hard, but you will get so many more incredible experiences if you just let go.
And as far as I'm concerned, that's the goal.
Yeah, there's a correlation between how far you've let go and how many crazy experiences you're going to have.
I agree, bro. I pretty much knew what you were going to say, but I wanted you to expound upon that, because when you said it, I was like, but we were in the middle of another conversation, so I let it go. But I made a point of notating that.
Yeah, so let's definitely talk about that on another podcast. There's a lot that goes into, because you could break that down into what we call it the top 10 things that are great about long-term overland travel, and the top 10 things that are very difficult about long-term overland travel. Like, because there are definitely pluses and minuses.
All right, let's do it. Mike, you got anything else you want to say?
No. No, as always, we've covered politics, rooftop tent rallies, right down to just going and doing it. So feel like we got something done today.
All right, guys, you know what I'm going to say. Stay safe, tread lightly, and hopefully we'll see you here or on the trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.